Hello everyone! How's it going? Hope everything is going amazingly well with you all. I'm Sheerin and I teach American English. Today's lesson is reading from More Classic Tales Storybook. Last time we took one tale, so let's revise fast what I read for you in part 3 before we start our lesson today. Our last story was Hansel and Gretel. Story elements: genre, fairy tale. Characters: Hansel, Gretel, the woodcutter, his wife, and the wicked witch. Settings: time, in the morning, or during the Great Famine and the Middle Ages. Place: in the forest, or in the woodcutter's cottage. Let's start. It was about a poor woodcutter who lived in a tiny house in a vast forest. He had a wife and 2 children, Hansel and Gretel. One year, the crops failed, and there was so little food that even the rats were starving. The man's wife wasn't the children's real mother. She was their stepmother. One night, she asked the woodcutter to take the children deep into the woods and to leave them there to get rid of them. At first, the man disagreed, but eventually he did what he was asked to do. They didn't realize that Hansel and Gretel were awake that night and heard the things their stepmother said to their dad. Hansel thought of a plan and went out to fill his pockets with pebbles. Then he tiptoed back inside. The next day, when they took the children into the forest to leave them there, Hansel and Gretel could go back home by following the path of pebbles Hansel made on their way to the forest. But it wasn't long until the stepmother spoke to their father again to get rid of his children for the hard times they were facing again. He tried to hold out, but once you have said yes, it's hard to say no the next time. In the end, he gave in. Hansel and Gretel overheard them again, but Hansel couldn't get out of the house, and their stepmother had locked the house up tight. The next morning, as they walked into the woods. Hansel broke up the bread in his pocket to throw a bit of it on the ground to mark the path. When the children were left in the woods, they woke up in the dark to find out that the crows had eaten all the bits of bread Hansel had dropped earlier. Hansel and Gretel were so scared and hungry. They looked for fruit and nuts and other things to eat, but they found little. Hansel and Gretel followed the cuckoo until they came to a beautiful little house. It was a gingerbread house. An old woman hobbled out of the house to invite them in to take care of them. The old woman served them a wonderful meal. After the meal, they felt drowsy. The old woman turned out to be a wicked witch. She locked Hansel in a cage and forced Gretel to cook for her brother, to eat him up when he was nice and fat. Five weeks passed. Each day, Gretel cooked and Hansel ate. The witch ordered Hansel to stick out his finger each day. He stuck out a bone instead. One day, the witch made some pastry and slid it into the oven, asking Gretel to stick her head in to see if it was nice and brown. But Gretel was too clever and told the witch that the hole was too small for her head to fit in. The witch stuck her head in the oven. So Gretel ran to Hansel and let him out of his cage. Hansel and Gretel found chests filled with golden coins. They filled their pockets with the golden coins and set off. After that, they met a swan and asked her to help them cross the river to go back home. Hansel and Gretel hugged their father when they saw him and lived with him again without their stepmother, as he kicked her out of the house after he fell sick at heart. Eventually, they became rich and lived in perfect happiness for a long, long time. Hello guys, once again. Let's start our story today, which is Beauty and the Beast, Part 1, Chapter 20. Once upon a time, there was a merchant who lived with his 3 daughters. He was rich and he lived in a big house. But all at once, he lost his riches. He had to sell his big house and move to a little cottage in the woods, far from town. He told his girls that they would have to move there and work hard to survive. The older girls whined, but the youngest daughter, who was called Beauty, tried to make the best of things. One day, few months later, a man came to the cottage with a letter. The letter said that one of the merchant's ships, which he thought had been lost at sea, had landed and was full of fine things. The merchant packed his things to make the long trip to claim his goods. Before he left, he asked his girls what he might bring them as a gift. The merchant packed his things to make the long trip. The two older girls asked for fancy clothing and gems, but Beauty said, "Dear father, just bring me a rose. I haven't seen one since we came here, and I love them so much." When the merchant finally reached his ship, he found that someone had stolen all his goods. So he turned around and set off for home, as poor as when he started his trip. On his way home, a snowstorm blew in. Snow fell faster and faster. The storm turned into a blizzard. The wind blew so hard, and it almost knocked the man off his horse. The man began looking for shelter. At last, he came upon a large house. He knocked on the door. There was no answer. He tried the doorknob and found that the door was open. He turned the knob and went in. The snowstorm turned into a blizzard. Hello, the man called out. Is anyone home? But still, there was no reply. He went into the house. He came to a large dining hall. There was a warm fire burning in the fireplace. Next to the fireplace was a little table with a tasty meal, just right for one person. The man warmed himself by the fire. He called out over and over, but still no one came. At last, he sat down and ate the food. After eating, the merchant explored the house. He soon came upon a lush garden with an orchard and flowers. He was shocked to see that the garden was blooming even in the depths of winter. He saw a rose bush and thought of Beauty's wish. He reached out to pluck a single rose, but just as the stem broke, he heard the loud roar behind him. The merchant found a lush garden with roses. The startled merchant turned around and saw a terrible monster. It was part man and part beast. "How dare you?" snarled the beast, charging forward and grabbing the rose. The merchant was scared. He stumbled backward. Then he fell to his knees. "Have mercy on me," he said. "I only wanted a rose for one of my daughters." "I will have mercy on you," said the beast, "on one condition. You must give me one of your daughters. Go and see if any one of them loves you so much that she will give her life to save yours." The beast snarled, "How dare you?" The sad father returned home and told his daughters what had happened. Beauty didn't hesitate. "I will go," she said quietly. "No, Beauty," said her father. "I'm old. I have only few years left to live. I shall go back to the beast. I will not let you return without me, said Beauty. Her father tried to change her mind, but he couldn't. Beauty said, I will go. Chapter 21 Beauty and the Beast Part 2. Beauty and her father returned to the palace. When she first saw the beast, Beauty couldn't help shaking, but she tried to hide her fear. The beast filled the trunk with gold. Then he loaded it onto a horse and sent Beauty's father away. As Beauty watched her father ride away, she began to cry. The old man was crying too. Beauty, said the beast, don't cry. Things are not as bad as you think. You have given yourself for your father's sake, and your goodness will be rewarded. Only take this advice. Do not be fooled by my looks. Trust your heart, not your eyes. Beauty stayed with the beast as father left. Days turned into weeks. Beauty strolled in the lovely garden where the birds sang to her. She found a huge library filled with books she wanted to read. At first, the beast looked scared. Beauty, but she soon grew used to them. Days turned into weeks. Beauty strolled in the lovely garden where the birds sang to her. She found a huge library filled with books she wanted to read. At first, the beast looked scared Beauty, but she soon grew used to them. The beast treated her with kindness. He would talk to her during dinner and keep her company. Soon, She looked forward to meals. When the meal was over and it was time to say goodnight, the Beast always turned to her and asked, "Beauty, will you marry me?" While she cared for him more every day, Beauty's reply was always no. Beauty and the Beast enjoyed meals together. One night, the Beast saw a sad look on Beauty's face. "Beauty," he said, "I can't bear to see you so sad. What's the matter?" She told him that she missed her family and that she longed to see her father. "But, Beauty," said the Beast, "if you leave me, I fear you will die of sadness." "Dear Beast," said Beauty softly, "I do not want to leave you, but I want to see my father. Only let me go for 4 weeks. Then I will come back and stay with you for the rest of my life." "Very well," sighed the Beast, "but remember your promise. Take this magic ring. When you want to come back, turn the ring round upon your finger and say, 'I wish to go back to my beast.'" The Beast gave Beauty a magic ring. When Beauty awoke early the next morning, she found herself in her father's home. It wasn't the old country cottage. It was a fine new house in town that he had bought with the riches the Beast had given him. Her father hugged her and wept for joy. Soon, her sisters and their new husbands came to visit. They pretended to be happy, but they were not. One sister had married a very handsome man. He was so in love with his own face that he thought of nothing else. The other sister had married a clever man. He liked to make fun of other people, even his wife. Beauty walked to find herself in her father's home. Day after day, Beauty enjoyed being with her father. She did all that she could to help him. When the time came for her to return to the beast, she found that she couldn't bring herself to say farewell to her father. Every day, she told herself, "Today, I will go back." But every night she put it off again. Then, one night, she had a dream. She dreamed that she was wandering in the garden around the beast's house when suddenly she heard painful groans. She looked down and saw the beast lying on the ground. He seemed to be dying. Beauty woke with a start. "Oh, how could I do this to my poor beast?" she cried. "Is it his fault he's ugly? Why did I refuse to marry him? I would be happier with him than my sisters are with their husbands. The beast is kind and good, and that matters more than anything else." She turned the ring round on her finger and said firmly, "I wish to go back to my beast." Yuri turned the ring around on her finger. In an instant, she found herself at the beast's house. She ran around calling aloud for the beast. There was no reply. Then she remembered her dream. She ran to the garden, and there she found the beast stretched on the ground. "Oh, he's dead!" she cried. "He's dead, and it's all my fault." She fell to the ground and took him in her arms. The beast slowly opened his eyes. Beauty cried, "Oh, beast, thank goodness you're alive. How you frightened me. I never knew how much I loved you until now, when I feared it was too late." In a faint voice, the beast said, "Beauty, I was dying because I thought you had forgotten your promise, or you have come back. What does this mean? Can you really love such an ugly monster as I am?" "Yes," said Beauty. Beauty found the beast in his garden. Then once again, the beast asked, Beauty, will you marry me? She replied, Yes, dear beast, I will. I never want to be away from you again. As she spoke, a blaze of light flashed around her. Beauty gasped and covered her eyes. When she opened them again, she no longer saw the beast. Instead, lying at her feet was a handsome prince. What has happened to my beast? She asked. I was the beast, said the prince. A wizard cast a spell on me and changed me into a monster. I was cursed to live as a monster until a maiden would agree to marry me. You are the only one who could see past my looks to the real me. Beauty gave the young prince her hand to help him rise. Side by side, they went into the house. The very next day, with Beauty's father looking on, they went to the church and got married. And they lived happily ever after. Beauty and her prince were married. Finally, we have finished our story today. Hope you liked it so much. See you next time. Hello once again. Let's begin our story today, The Magic Paintbrush, Chapter 22. Once upon a time, long ago, in the land of China, there was a poor boy named Meliang. He had no parents, no one to care for him or protect him. So, to make a living, he gathered bundles of firewood to sell. But what he really wanted to do, more than anything else in the world, was paint. Meliang was so poor, however, that he couldn't afford even a single paintbrush. One day, as Meliang passed through a village, he saw a class of children standing outdoors. The children were painting. Melian went to the teacher and politely said, "Will you help me, sir? I would like to learn to paint, but I have no brush. Will you loan me one?" The teacher just laughed at him. "You were only a little beggar boy," he said. "Go away." Melian asked the teacher for a paintbrush. "I may be poor," said Melian, "but I will learn to paint." The next time he went to gather firewood, Melian used twig to draw birds in the dirt. When he came to a stream, he dipped his hand in the water and used his wet finger to draw fish on the rocks. One night, he used a piece of burned wood to draw animals and flowers. Every day, Melian found time to draw. People began to see that he could draw well. "How real the boy's drawings look," they said. "Look at that bird he has drawn. It looks like it's ready to fly away. You can almost hear it sing." Melian enjoyed hearing these kind words. But still, he thought, "If only I had a paintbrush." Melian used his wet finger to draw fish on the rocks. One night, after Melian had worked hard all day, he fell into deep sleep. In a dream he saw an old man with a long white beard and a kind face. The old man held something in his hand. "Take this," he said to Melian. "It's a magic paintbrush. Use it with care." When Melian woke, he found his fingers wrapped around the paintbrush. "Am I still dreaming?" he wondered. He got up and painted a bird. The painted bird chirped. Then it flapped its wings and flew away. painted a deer as soon as he had put the last spot on the animal's skull. It brushed its nose against Melian and ran into the woods. "It truly is a magic brush," said Melian. He ran to see his poor neighbors. He painted toys for girls and boys. He painted cows and tools for the farmers. He painted bowls full of food for the hungry and wells for the thirsty. Melian painted a deer that came to life and ran into the woods. No good thing can remain a secret forever. Soon, news of Melian and his magic paintbrush reached the ears of the greedy emperor. "Bring me that boy and his brush," the emperor yelled. His men found Melian and brought him back to the palace. With a scowl, the emperor looked at Melian. "Paint me a dragon," he yelled. Melian began to paint. But instead of painting a dragon, he painted a slimy toad. The toad hopped out of the painting and landed right on the emperor's head. "Foolish boy," said the emperor. "You will regret that." He grabbed the magic paintbrush. Then he ordered his men to throw Melian in jail. The toad hopped out of the painting and landed right on the emperor's head. The emperor called for his royal painter. "Take this brush and paint me a huge pile of gold and pearls," he ordered. The royal painter set to work. He painted gold and pearls, but when he finished, the gold and pearls turned to worthless rocks. "So," said the emperor, "the brush will only work for the boy. Bring him to me." Melian was brought to the emperor. "If you will paint for me," said the emperor, "you may have all this gold and all of these gems. I will also give you fine clothing a new house, and all the food and drink you want. Melian pretended to agree. What do you want me to paint? He asked. Paint me a tree that has gold coins for leaves, said the emperor. Greed shone in his eyes. The emperor offered Melian golden gems. Melian took the magic paintbrush and began to paint. He painted blue waves, and soon the emperor saw a sea before him. That is not what I told you to paint, he barked. But Melian just kept painting. In the sea he painted an island. Then, on the shore of the island, he painted a tree with gold coins for leaves. Yes, yes, said the emperor. That's more like it. Now paint me a boat so that I can get to the island quickly. Melian painted a sailboat. The emperor went on board with his officers and advisors. Melian painted more lines, and a gentle wind began to blow. The sailboat moved slowly toward the island. Melian painted a boat for the emperor. Faster, faster, shouted the emperor. Melian painted a big curving stroke, and a strong wind began to blow. That's plenty of wind, shouted the emperor. But Melian ignored him and went on painting. He painted more wind. He painted more waves. He painted a huge storm. The waves got higher and higher. Rain poured down. The winds howled and roared. The sailboat was tossed like a little cork on the water. At last, the waves tore the boat to pieces. The emperor and his men had to jump overboard. They were washed up on the shore of the island, with no way to get back to the palace. As for Melian, people say that 4 years after that, he went from village to village, using his magic paintbrush to help the poor wherever he went. The waves tore the boat to pieces. So, now we have finished our story today. Hope you liked it so much. So, leave a comment below telling me whether you like those stories today or not, and why. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you're not a subscriber yet. See you next time. Bye.